The off-season is in full swing, my friends, and with that in mind, it's our duty to go out there and start talking about the hockey prospects that will take over the game of tomorrow. With this, of course, comes a bigger discussion of guys in the Montreal Canadiens organization. They have a bunch of interesting young names, some of which we've talked about throughout the course of the season, others we check in with once in a while. This is one of the latter, because today we are going over a guy whose profile is so underrated, and so under the radar too, that when you talk about Habs prospects at this position, you almost never talk about this guy. But with that established, there is a very legitimate profile of a player that does deserve to be talked about today. He is potentially the most underrated prospect in the Canadiens organization right now, and we're going to talk about him today after a quick word. When it comes to career changes or life changes, for the athletes we watch, or even just me or you, changes in life can lead to changes in identity. And the question we are starting to ask a little bit more is, how will this affect our mental health? This is where a therapist can come in, who will listen, ask questions, and help you see things from new perspectives. Going to therapy is a sign of strength, not weakness. And a therapist can give you advice and techniques to help make positive changes in your life. BetterHelp is the paid partner of this video, and they're on a mission to make starting therapy easier. Fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist as soon as possible. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/lego and get 10% off your first month of therapy. That's betterhelp.com/lego for 10% off your first month. Get started with BetterHelp. Today we are going over onto an article published on rg.org from a month ago. This was posted on May 13th, 2025, and it talks about Montreal Canadiens Russian prospect Yevgeni Volokhin, and how his dream is to become an NHL star. Volokhin eyes an NHL future, and he is ready for Montreal's passion. Now, before we dive into the article itself, let's do ourselves some due diligence and dive into the profile of Volokhin as a young prospect in the Habs organization. Yevgeni Volokhin was a 2023 Montreal Canadiens 5th-round pick, 144th overall. 20-year-old goaltender, 6'3", 168, left-handed Russian catching goalie. Volokhin was drafted all the way back in 2023 out of the Montreal MHL squad, where he went 26-3 and posted up a .931 save percentage in 5 playoff games. He was a really strong prospect. As the years went on and progressing in the MHL, Volokhin just continued to dominate. And looking at some of the statistics, I mean, .938 save percentage in 2023-2024 in the regular season, a .954 save percentage in the playoffs that year. While he wasn't necessarily winning the most games in the playoffs, the numbers he was putting up were spectacular. And that carried over into the most recent season's worth of play, where instead of just playing for Montreal in the MHL, Yevgeni Volokhin ended up spending time with 3 different Russian leagues. He played for Yugra in the VHL, so Russia's second-tier league, posting up an .857 save percentage over there. He had 8 Montreal MHL games in the Junior League, .931 save percentage there. But the majority of Volokhin's time in the 24-25 season was spent with HK Sochi. He had a .901 save percentage and a .348 goals against average. And while that might not seem like the most impressive number, you have to acknowledge that this guy had a .417-1 record. There's no sugarcoating it. HK Sochi was not a great team in the KHL this previously completed season. They were dead last in the West and third last in the entire Continental Hockey League. And it's hard to say that it's the 19-20-year-old goalie's fault. The guy played a good chunk of the games as a rookie, still had a save percentage over 900, and had a really bad win-loss ratio. That, of course, does not take away from the quality of play that Volokhin provides. The fact that he was even in the KHL as a 19-year-old is an impressive feat, and the fact that he was able to stick around for the entire season up until the end of March is even more impressive. You can even see here in the game log for HK Sochi, I mean, look at all the losses in a row here. Volokhin was able to get one win in the final month of the season, and he had a .944 save percentage in that game. We have to stress here that these numbers and these statistics are not necessarily an indictment against the player. And so with all that in mind, let's go out there and read this article on RG.org from a month ago that talks about Yevgeni Volokhin's desire to be an NHL star. At the moment of his selection in 2023, the young goalie had put up some of the best numbers in the Russian Junior League for a draft-eligible goalie. But Volokhin didn't care. He just wanted to hear his name called out. At the time, being drafted meant a lot to me. He had shared in an exclusive interview with RG.org. It's hard to describe the feeling. I was happy. It felt like I had achieved something important. Despite developing a chip on his shoulder, Volokhin remains confident and believes that being drafted isn't that important, although he is happy to have been chosen by a team like Montreal. They explained to me that it doesn't really matter when a goalie is picked. As long as you're drafted, it simplifies things when going overseas, explained Volokhin. Honestly, if I hadn't been drafted, I wouldn't have been too upset. I could have joined any team at any time. Now, I'm attached to one club, and I'm very comfortable with Montreal. And that is an interesting perspective here. I do think it does make a lot of sense, though, especially if you're a goalie. I mean, hey, there are only 64 goaltending spots in the National Hockey League. Maybe 70 if you wanted to say some teams have a triple rotation going on there. So it's not necessarily about being one of the many, it's about being included in the first place. And Volokhin says that he's done that now. He's with Montreal, and he also keeps in touch with Nick Bobrov, the Habs director of amateur scouting. We call or text every 2 or 3 weeks. Whenever there's something important, we talk. Sometimes they offer me advice about my game or my mental preparation. He plans to attend Canadiens development camp this summer and stays in touch with other Russian prospects in the organization. After the draft, he had spoke with torpedo defenseman Bogdan Konyushkov, and the two later played together on Russia's U-25 national team. Volokhin also knows Ivan Demidov, who was already signed with the Canadiens and made his NHL debut. It'll be awesome in the future, Volokhin said, commenting on Demidov's NHL move. This is where the article dives into Volokhin's perspective on who is already in the Habs crease. I know about their starter, Sami Montembeault. He's good. I like him. I've also heard of Jakub Dobeš, but haven't followed him much. It's probably too soon since I haven't arrived at the NHL yet. Speaking about that timeline, it doesn't really seem like it would be coming right away. His contract with Sochi and SKA is set to expire by the summer of 2027. However, Volokhin remains open to the possibility of moving to the NHL. We'll see. Nobody knows what'll happen next season or even next week, cautioned Volokhin. Everything is uncertain. Maybe I'll be in Montreal in 2 years if I'm physically and mentally ready. And I really like that comment there. He's like, yeah, we can't even tell the future in a week. So who knows what's going to happen a year or 2 years out? Very wise words from a young man. And of course, this is where things get really interesting when discussing the passion of hockey fans. Volokhin immediately brought up the Montreal Canadiens, known for having some of the most passionate fans in the league. Of course, I follow hockey closely. I really enjoy playing in front of loud fans, and if they're cheering you on, it's even better. Fan pressure won't bother me. It'll help me. For Volokhin, playing in the NHL has always been more than a dream. It's been a clear goal. My dream is to be an NHL star, and my goal is to succeed there. The rest of the article going further down is really great. Just a solid interview here from Daria Tuboltseva of RG.org. There's a conversation as to how Volokhin follows Thatcher Demko, Vasilevsky, Pekka Rinne, lots of really good guys to pay attention to and draw inspiration from. Big shout out over to my guy Thatcher Demko, man. Volokhin straight up saying him as the first name that he follows. That tickles my fancy in a very positive way. The article then talks about how Volokhin has indeed been watching NHL hockey from a young age, which has fueled his love for the position of goaltending and wanting to do better and improve. And so with all that in mind, I mean, it's a really positive update and a good state of mind for Yevgeni Volokhin, a guy who had displayed such crazy good MHL production as a goalie and who had a full cup of coffee at the KHL level this previous year. Sure, the numbers weren't fantastic, but the team he was on was one of the worst in the league, so you can't really blame the 19-20-year-old goaltender. At the end of the day, Yevgeni Volokhin is giving us a lot to cheer about, and he says it himself, if everything works a little bit smoother over the next 2 years, he could be making that North American jump a little sooner than we had expected. So with all that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Montreal Canadiens prospect Yevgeni Volokhin and his entire progress so far in the KHL? The article will be linked in the description. Let me know in the comment section all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.